I came home a day early. That wasn't the plan. I was supposed to be on the lake until Sunday evening, fishing with my old army buddy Rick. But my gut told me something. Call it instinct. Call it 50 years of marriage tuning me into the little things, like the way she said "love you" on the phone. Too fast. Too light. As if it were a line from a play she no longer believed in. The sun hadn't set yet. I parked my Chevy quietly, tires crunching on the gravel like a warning I hoped nobody heard. I walked around back, like I always used to when I forgot my keys. It was muscle memory. The sliding glass door was cracked open. That wasn't like her. She always locked it, even when I was home. I stepped inside. The smell hit me first. Garlic. Butter. My ribeye recipe. Medium rare. She used to ask me to make it every anniversary. But I hadn't made it in over a year. I followed the scent. And there he was. Trevor. My neighbor. Sitting at my dinner table. Wearing my old Marine Corps t-shirt, the one with the faded logo she used to say made me look rugged. He was cutting into a perfect ribeye. My wife, Elaine, was standing over him, laughing. Her hand brushed his shoulder like it had done to mine 1,000 times. She froze when she saw me. The smile evaporated. His fork paused midair. "John," she said. No explanation. Just my name. Trevor stood slowly, wiped his mouth with my linen napkin. "I didn't know you were back," he said. Neither of them moved closer. I looked at the table. 2 glasses of red. The one on my side still had the lip mark from her lipstick. I didn't speak. I just nodded. Then I walked out. I didn't slam the door. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't ask why. Because I already knew. That night I sat in my truck down the road, in the dark, watching the house. She didn't call. He didn't leave. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Instead, I wrote one sentence in my notebook: they want a new life? I'll give it to them. Next morning, I visited a store 2 towns over. I bought 4 tiny cameras. Wireless. Motion activated. The clerk asked if I was starting a YouTube channel. I smiled. Back home, I waited until they were both out. Elaine thought I was still on the lake. I knew her routine: groceries on Thursdays, yoga at noon. By 12:45, every room had a camera: a bedroom, hallway, kitchen, even the porch. Then I waited. They didn't disappoint. That night, she brought him back again. He kissed her like he owned her. Like 50 years meant nothing. But I didn't just watch. I took notes. I recorded everything. Times. Words. Patterns. This wasn't about catching her. That had already happened. This was about building something. I started making calls. Old favors. Contacts from my engineering days. People who owed me. People who remembered the things I fixed. One of them ran a media production company now. I told him I wanted to make a short film about forgiveness, aging, letting go. He asked who it was for. For the world, I said. The next time she called me, it was Saturday morning. She asked if I was coming home Sunday. I said, no. Take your time. You deserve it. She thanked me. That was the last time she'd speak to me without regret. That night, I drafted a letter. Not to her. To Trevor. It read, "I've seen how happy you make her. She's always wanted someone like you, someone who's here, present, passionate. I was gone too often. I was too cold. You gave her warmth. That's a gift. I want to give one too. Will you marry her? I'll pay for everything. I didn't sign it. But I made sure it reached him. By Monday, she came home humming. She had no idea the cameras were still on. No idea I was watching her plan her happily ever after. And I wasn't angry anymore. I was calm. Because the show was just beginning. Trevor never replied to the letter. But I saw the effect. 3 days after I sent it, Elaine cooked again. Not just pasta or something frozen. She baked bread from scratch. Wore lipstick. Played jazz in the kitchen like she used to when we were first married. She even hummed a little. The cameras picked up her laugh, light, girlish, foreign to the woman I thought I knew. Trevor brought flowers the next day. Cheap ones. Gas station lilies. But she acted like they were diamonds. They talked late into the night. On the porch. Holding hands. They spoke of fresh starts, of leaving the past behind. He called her his angel. She called him my chance at real joy. I recorded everything. My contact at the production company, Marcus, called that weekend. You sure you want this kind of footage going public? He asked. I want the world to see what honesty looks like, I replied. He didn't ask further questions. By the following Friday, I had collected 9 full days of footage, clear, crisp, damning. But I needed more than infidelity. Trevor wasn't just a homewrecker. He was a fraud. When he moved into the neighborhood 5 years ago, he told everyone he was a retired financial advisor. Claimed to have managed millions. Said he retired early after doing it right. I did a background check. Turns out he never had a license. No certifications. Nothing. He wasn't even his real name. Trevor was an alias, his real name was Ronald Keller. He had moved 3 times in 10 years. Each time after lawsuits. Unpaid debts. Broken lives. Elaine had no idea. And she was about to marry a ghost. That Sunday, I met with Marcus in person. We sat at a diner outside town. I ordered black coffee. He brought a laptop. He clicked play. My screen showed Elaine, mid-laughter, pouring wine. Then Trevor grabbing her waist, whispering in her ear. The audio was clear. Their words were poison candy. Do you think he suspects? She asked. He's old. He's soft. He's not a threat, Trevor replied. That's when I decided, the wedding wouldn't just be a trap. It would be a performance. I called Elaine the next morning. I've been thinking, I said. Oh? You deserve a new chapter. A real one. I want to give you a gift. There was silence. What kind of gift? A wedding. Yours. With Trevor. A fresh start, fully funded. She didn't speak for a full 10 seconds. Why would you do that? Because you were honest with me. That deserves peace. Closure. She started crying. I listened. Then hung up. It wasn't forgiveness. It was bait. Planning began that week. Marcus secured a venue at the same church where Elaine and I married in 1973. The irony made him nervous. It made me feel alive. I told Elaine I'd take care of everything, the dress, the guests, the music. She insisted on helping. I let her. It made the setup more satisfying. She picked the colors, lavender and gold. She picked the flowers, white roses. She sent out invitations to close friends. I added a few names of my own, reporters, former clients of Trevor's, the ones who knew his real name, and a local judge I once fixed a boiler for. Elaine wanted a small ceremony. I made it a spectacle. Photographers. Live musicians. A drone for overhead shots. It looked like a Hollywood wedding. But behind the scenes, Marcus and his team prepped a short documentary, 4 minutes of betrayal, lies, and video evidence. It would air at the reception. I called it a gift of truth. One night, a week before the wedding, Trevor saw me across the street. I was watering the lawn like any other retiree. He walked over slowly. "You being awful calm about all this," he said. I shrugged. "She deserves happiness. I wasn't giving it to her." He looked confused, then pleased. "She told me you were always cold." I nodded. "She's probably right." Then he said something I didn't expect. "You know, I really do care for her. I didn't plan any of this. It just happened." I looked him in the eye. "Then you'll enjoy what's coming." He smiled. He thought I meant the wedding. The invitations went out on Monday. I watched Elaine seal each envelope with care. She used the same cursive handwriting she'd practiced as a girl, the same soft blue ink she used for our wedding invitations 5 decades ago. There was something eerie in her serenity, as if she believed this farce was truly a blessing. As if she believed I had forgiven her. I had. But not in the way she thought. Each envelope contained a gold-trimmed card, elegant and simple. "Join us in celebrating the union of Elaine Richards and Trevor Langston. A new beginning. Sunday at 2 p.m. St. Mark's Chapel. Reception to follow." St. Mark's Chapel, where we were married in 1973. She wanted it for sentimental reasons. I agreed instantly. Marcus's team was in full swing. We had 3 shooters for the ceremony, 2 drones, and a hidden MIC sewn into the lining of my jacket. The documentary was finished, 3 minutes, 24 seconds of pure truth. No voiceover. Just clips, texts, and faces. We rehearsed the timing a dozen times. The video would be cued right after the first toast at the reception. Wednesday night, I stood in the garage, staring at our old photo albums. Elaine kept them in pristine condition, like artifacts. Smiling faces. Summer barbecues. Grandkids. She looked so happy back then. I wondered when it started. When did she stop being my partner? Was it the silence over dinner? My long absences during work trips? Or did she simply grow tired of a man who could fix anything except a failing marriage? I didn't know. And now, it didn't matter. I selected one photo from our wedding, her in that ivory dress, my hand on her waist. I slid it into a new frame and packed it in a gift box. It would be my wedding gift to her. Thursday, I picked up my suit from the tailor. Navy blue. Sharp. It still fit. The clerk smiled as he handed it to me. "You going somewhere special?" "Yes," I said. "To the end of something." Elaine came to me that evening, standing in the doorway of the guest room where I'd been sleeping. "You didn't have to do all this," she said. "Maybe not," I replied. "But it felt right." She paused. "I hope you're okay." "I'm better than I've been in years." She smiled, soft and almost guilty. Then she left. I locked the door behind her. Friday, Marcus sent me the final guest list. 28 confirmed attendees. 8 of mine, all planted for maximum effect, reporters, lawyers, and one of Trevor's past victims. I called her personally. Her name was Nadine. She had lost everything because of Trevor's fake investment scheme 6 years ago. "Why now?" she asked. "Because I want him to feel what you felt," I said. "Only worse." She agreed. Saturday was calm. I spent the morning polishing my shoes, ironing the shirt, organizing the flash drives. Each one labeled Truth, sealed in a red envelope. They'd be handed out after the video played. Elaine was at the salon. Trevor was at a tuxedo fitting. I was at peace. That night, I stood in our bedroom doorway. She was brushing her hair. The light made her look younger than she was. For a second, I remembered the girl I married. "Tomorrow's the big day," I said. She turned. "Are you really okay with this?" I looked her in the eyes. "I'm exactly where I need to be." She came over, hugged me. "Thank you." I hugged her back. It was the last time I would. Sunday arrived like a stage curtain rising. The sky was clear, the church immaculate. Guests arrived early, dressed sharp, smiling. Cameras rolled quietly. Drones hovered above the entrance. Elaine wore a lavender dress, not white, out of respect, she said. Trevor looked smug, as if he had won something. He had no idea what he'd lost. At 1:57 p.m., I walked her down the aisle. My arm linked with hers. She held it tightly, like old times. People smiled, some wiped tears. She thought it was a moment of grace. It was a march to the gallows. The chapel fell silent as the music began. Elaine stood beside Trevor at the altar, her hands folded neatly over his. She looked radiant in lavender, her eyes shining with something between nervousness and joy. Trevor, in a black tuxedo that didn't quite fit right, grinned like a man stepping into a dream. The guests watched with polite smiles. Most didn't know the full story. Not yet. The minister spoke gently, welcoming everyone. He glanced at me once, just briefly. I had met with him privately days before. He wasn't in on the plan, but I told him it would be a day to remember. Elaine and Trevor exchanged soft glances. She leaned into him slightly. I stood at the side, hands folded, still as stone. I wasn't a bitter ex-husband. I was a quiet architect. The ceremony moved forward. Vows were next. Elaine went first. "I never thought I'd find love again," she said, voice trembling. "But sometimes, life gives you a second chance. And I want to cherish this one, every day, for the rest of my life." Trevor's turn. "I never believed in fate," he said. "But you changed that. You brought me peace, joy, and purpose. I promise to honor you, protect you, and grow old with you." He squeezed her hands. She smiled, eyes moist. The guests applauded softly. I didn't clap. At the reception, things felt lighter. Champagne flowed. Music played. The guests laughed, mingled, and danced. Elaine moved through the room with a glow I hadn't seen in years. Marcus's team worked like ghosts. Cameras tucked in corners, mics hidden under tablecloths. No one noticed them. That was the point. The dinner was perfect. Grilled salmon, garlic mashed potatoes, a side of asparagus. She loved asparagus. I made sure it was there. Just before dessert, I rose from my chair. "Friends," I said, raising a glass. "It's not every day you get to celebrate the love of two people brave enough to start over. I want to offer a gift." The room quieted. I had something made. A short video. A tribute to Elaine and Trevor's journey. Please, enjoy. The lights dimmed. A screen lowered. Projectors hummed. Trevor looked confused. Elaine touched his arm gently, reassuring him. The screen flickered to life. It began sweetly. Photos of Elaine laughing, gardening, holding grandkids. Then Trevor, walking his dog, shaking hands with neighbors. Music swelled, soft piano, hopeful tones. Then came the shift. The first clip, Elaine and Trevor on my porch, late at night. Her hand on his thigh. A few guests gasped. Then, a kitchen footage, their lips locked, my wine glasses on the table. Then, audio, her voice asking, "Do you think he suspects?" Trevor replying, "He's old. Soft. Not a threat." More gasps. Murmurs. Then, documents. Trevor's fake name. Lawsuits. Bankruptcies. Testimonies from people like Nadine, their lives ruined. Finally, my voice, narrating just one sentence. "Here is your truth. Here is your legacy." The video ended. Silence. Elaine stood frozen. Trevor's jaw was locked. No one moved. Then Nadine stood up. Calmly, she said, "He conned me out of $140,000. And left me to rot." Someone clapped. Then another. Applause grew. Trevor tried to speak. Elaine grabbed his arm. "I didn't know," she whispered. He pulled away. "You set me up," he said, glaring at me. I shrugged. "No. You did that yourself." The rest was chaos. Guests left in waves. Reporters approached. Cameras flashed. Someone shouted, "Did you know he was married before under a different name?" Trevor shoved a man aside. Elaine cried, holding her chest. I didn't stay for dessert. As I walked out, Marcus handed me a small drive. Labeled, "The Wedding." I pocketed it and walked toward the car. The sky was dark now. But inside me, it was clear. The video spread faster than I expected. By Monday morning, the local news had picked it up. By Tuesday, it was on 3 national platforms. Headlines read like something from a movie. Wedding turns into live exposé of infidelity and fraud. Groom unmasked at the altar, lies, love, and betrayal. Marcus uploaded the full version to his channel. Within 24 hours, it hit 2 million views. Comment sections exploded. Some called it genius. Others called it cruel. But no one could stop watching. And Trevor couldn't hide anymore. He tried to lay low. But the lawsuits found him faster than the media did. Nadine's case reopened, along with 2 others from different states. Old victims came out of the woodwork. Everyone wanted a piece of the man who humiliated himself live. Elaine didn't return home. She stayed in a motel for a few days, then moved into her sister's condo. She called me twice. I didn't answer. She sent the letter. Handwritten. 8 pages. Apologies. Explanations. Memories. I burned it without reading past the first line. That week, I met Marcus one last time. We sat at the same diner, in the same booth. "You want to do interviews?" he asked. "No," I said. This wasn't for fame. He nodded. "You want me to take it down?" "No. Let it breathe." He slid over a thumb drive. "Director's cut," he said. "In case you ever want to watch the fall again." I took it. Left a 50 on the table. Walked out lighter than I'd felt in years. The house was quiet again. No footsteps in the hallway. No clinking glasses. Just the sound of the wind through the trees. I packed up the last of her things, jewelry, photos, her books. I left one thing behind, a single envelope on her nightstand. Inside, a photo from our wedding and a sticky note that read, "This was real. Once." Then I locked the bedroom door. I would never open it again. I sold the house within a month. Good price. Clean papers. New family moved in, young couple with a baby on the way. They didn't ask why I was leaving. I didn't offer. I took the money and bought something simple, a small airstream trailer parked near the coast, a 5-minute walk from the water. Quiet. Solitary. Peaceful. I spent my days fishing, reading, and watching waves. At night, I sat under the stars, a thermos of coffee in one hand, the sea breeze in my face. And I thought about nothing. For once. One afternoon, I walked into the local library. Just browsing. The woman behind the counter smiled at me, grey hair, glasses, soft voice. She handed me a book without a word, A Revenge Stories of the 21st Century. I raised an eyebrow. She winked. We talked for an hour that day. Then again the next. Her name was Helen. Widow. 2 sons, both moved out. Gardened in her spare time. Read everything from Hemingway to Grisham. She never asked about my past. I never asked about hers. It was nice. A month later, a letter came. No return address. Inside, air check. Made out to me. Amount, at $12.17. Memo line, a half the stake. I laughed for 5 full minutes. Then I tore it up. Elaine resurfaced once. In the form of a tabloid article. Grainy photo of her entering a church support group for displaced spouses. The caption called her the forgotten bride. The irony didn't escape me. One evening, I stood at the shore, toes in the water, watching the sun set. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Silence. Then a voice. I still love you, she said. I didn't reply. She added, did any of it mean anything to you? I looked at the ocean. It did. Until it didn't. I hung up. Blocked the number. Dropped the phone in the sand. And walked into the surf, letting the cold wash everything else away. 2 months had passed. The dust had settled for everyone else. News cycles moved on, the world forgot. But not Elaine. Not Trevor. For them, the fallout continued like a long, cold winter. I hadn't heard from Helen in a week. She was visiting her grandchildren out of state. That left me alone with my thoughts, which I didn't mind. I'd learned to enjoy silence again. No phone calls. No voices behind closed doors. Just me, the sea, and the occasional cry of gulls overhead. Then one morning, as I opened the door of my trailer, I found a package on the steps. No postage. Someone had left it by hand. Inside, aired DVD, plain, silver. No markings. And a folded sheet of paper. I need you to see something. E. I stared at it for a long time. Then walked inside, poured coffee, and let it sit there for hours. When I finally played it, I wasn't sure what to expect. The footage was shaky. Someone had recorded with a phone, clearly without permission. It was Elaine, sitting alone in a circle of chairs. Support group setting. Fluorescent lighting. Beige walls. Her voice came through soft but clear. My name is Elaine, she said. I was married for 50 years. I broke that. There were nods around her. I didn't just betray a man. I betrayed a life. And I believed. I'd found something new. But it was a lie. He was a lie. She spoke for 10 minutes. Described Trevor's behavior post-wedding. How he turned cold, bitter. How he blamed her for everything. How he drank, shouted, vanished for days. How he hit her once. The group went still when she said that. I thought I deserved it, she added. After what I did. Someone reached out and touched her hand. The clip ended. I sat still for a long time. Not out of pity. Not regret. Just stillness. That night, I walked along the beach, flashlight in one hand. The stars were sharp above. I found a flat rock and sat for a long time. The waves curled in and out like breath. Elaine's voice lingered in my ears. Was it justice? Or just the echo of it? The next day, I did something I hadn't done in years. I wrote a letter. Not to her. Not to Trevor. To myself. I wrote down every choice. Every turning point. Every yes, every no. Then I burned it. Watched the ash drift out over the water. A week later, Helen returned. She brought me a pie. Blueberry. Homemade. We ate in silence, side by side on the trailer steps. She asked, "You okay?" I said, "Almost." She nodded. Almost is better than not at all. We didn't speak about the past. She didn't ask about the video. But that night, when I walked her back to her car, she took my hand. And for the first time in years, I didn't flinch. In town, people still whispered when I walked by. Not out of shame, out of fascination. One man stopped me outside the hardware store. "You that guy," he said. "The wedding." I nodded. "You made her pay." I looked him in the eye. "No," I said. I showed her the price. He didn't understand. Didn't matter. One rainy afternoon, I found a note taped to the inside of my mailbox. Trevor's handwriting. "You ruined me. Hope you're proud." No signature. Just venom. I burned it with a smile. 2 days later, I heard he'd left town. No forwarding address. Rumors said he fled debts. Others said he moved back in with his brother across the state line. I didn't care. I wasn't chasing ghosts anymore. Autumn arrived without fanfare. The leaves turned slowly, rusting into golden crimson along the coastal road. The wind carried a sharper edge, and the mornings came with dew on the trailer steps. I welcomed the change. Seasons meant movement. And I was tired of stillness. Helen visited more often. She brought books, blankets, coffee. We didn't talk much. Just sat together, reading or listening to the sea. Once, she reached for my hand and held it for a long time without speaking. It was enough. One morning, she handed me a newspaper clipping. It was a photo of Trevor. Mugshot. Arrested for fraud in another state. Different name. Different victim. I studied the picture. His eyes had the same smug tilt, but the mouth was tight, bitter. Beneath the photo, a quote, "He always said he was someone else." I folded the article and placed it in the fire. Helen didn't ask why. She didn't need to. That evening, I found a package in the mail. No return address again. But the handwriting was unmistakable. Elaine. Inside, a small wooden box. I opened it slowly, half expecting another confession. Instead, there was a necklace. Her old locket. The one I gave her on our 25th anniversary. Inside, 2 photos, one of us on our wedding day, and one of her alone, now, looking directly at the camera. There was a note. I never deserved it. But it was always real to me. I thought you should have it back. E. I sat with it for a while. Then I walked to the water. And threw it as far as I could. The next morning, I started building something. Not big. Just a bench. Simple wood, sanded smooth, treated for salt air. I placed it on the bluff overlooking the ocean. I carved into the backrest. For those who stayed too long. And those who left just in time. I didn't know why I did it. Maybe for me. Maybe for someone else who'd need it one day. Helen called it the most honest piece of furniture she'd ever seen. A few days later, I got a call from Marcus. "The documentary's getting attention again," he said. "Why?" "Someone on a podcast found it. It's going viral again. You might want to know." I thanked him. Hung up. Later that night, I checked online for the first time in months. They were right. The video had resurfaced. Millions of new views. Reactions. Analysis videos. Some calling me a hero. Others calling me a psychopath. It didn't matter. The truth had a habit of floating back up, no matter how deep it sank. The next Sunday, I went to the chapel. Not for service. Just to sit. The doors were unlocked. The same stained glass windows filtered the light. I sat in the last pew, staring at the altar where I had once said my vows. First to Elaine. Then, years later, to her again, this time not in marriage, but in sacrifice. I stayed there until the sun dipped low. On my way out, I saw a man sweeping near the front. He looked up, recognized me. "You're the guy from the video." I didn't answer. He nodded anyway. "You did what most of us dream about." "No," I said quietly. "I did what I had to." Back at the trailer, I found Helen waiting with 2 cups of coffee. She smiled, handed me one, then sat on the steps beside me. The sky was violet now. The stars beginning to appear. "I think I'm ready," I said. "For what?" "To stop looking backward." She nodded. "Then let's look forward." We sat there, in silence, as the wind carried the last of the summer warmth away. And for the first time since it all began, I felt clean. The storm came overnight. Not rain, not thunder. A letter. Delivered by hand. Slipped under the trailer door while I slept. I found it the next morning. My name was written in ink that bled slightly through the envelope. No return address, again. But I didn't need one. Inside, 2 pages. The first was typed, impersonal. Legal language. A formal notice of intent to sue for emotional damages, defamation, and character assassination. Trevor's name, printed in bold at the bottom. The second page was handwritten. A different tone. "You wanted justice. You got it. Now you've gone too far. You ruined everything. And you're still not done. But I am. You'll hear from my lawyer. No signature. No apology. Just bile." I folded the letter, placed it in my fire pit, and watched the flames erase it. That afternoon, I visited a local attorney. She was young, sharp, and direct. "He doesn't have a case," she said after reviewing the documents. "Public figures. Consent. Documentary protections. You're clean." I nodded. She paused. "Do you want to countersue?" I shook my head. "I don't need money. I have peace." She smiled. Not many people can say that. Helen was quiet that evening. She watched the waves for a long time before speaking. "You still feel it, don't you?" "What?" "The pull. The weight of it all." I took a long breath. "Not like before. But it's there. Like an echo." She nodded. Sometimes the loudest echoes come from the things we never said. I didn't ask what she meant. She didn't elaborate. That week, I got another package. This one from Marcus. Inside, our hardcover book. Title, The Wedding That Broke the Internet. On the cover, an illustration of Elaine at the altar, face turned in shock, the screen behind her glowing. I flipped through it. Photos. Screenshots. Commentary. Chapter titles like Anatomy of Betrayal and Justice by Ceremony. It wasn't mine. It was theirs. The public's. I closed it, placed it on a shelf, and didn't touch it again. I spent the next few days walking more. I returned to places I hadn't visited in years. The old bridge where Elaine and I carved our initials. The diner where we used to split pie on Sundays. The trail where we once got lost and ended up arguing for hours, then laughing under the stars. I didn't feel pain. Just distance. Like looking at someone else's memories. One morning, I stood in front of the mirror. For the first time in months, I didn't see the man who was betrayed. I saw the man who survived it. Who rebuilt something out of the ashes. It didn't make me proud. But it did make me whole. Helen surprised me that evening. She brought 2 folding chairs and set them on the cliff near the bench I built. Then she unpacked a small picnic, wine, cheese, a blanket. I figured we've done enough sitting in silence, she said. Time to start talking again. So we did. About books. About music. About childhood dreams. She told me she once wanted to be a pianist. I told her I once wanted to be a teacher. We both laughed at how far life had taken us from those places. But it was good. To speak. To hear. To remember. The next day, I received a voicemail. From Elaine. Her voice was slow, quiet, but clear. I'm leaving the country, she said. Going to stay with my cousin in Ireland. I won't be coming back. I wanted to say thank you. Pause. For everything. Even the pain. Especially the truth. She ended the message without goodbye. I deleted it. Not out of anger. Just finality. That night, Helen asked me something unexpected. If none of this had happened, no affair, no betrayal, do you think you and she would still be together? I thought for a long time. Then I said, probably. But I would have died quietly. Unaware. Unchanged. She looked at me. Maybe that's what she saved you from. I didn't know how to answer that. So I didn't. Winter crept in slowly. The mornings were colder now. Frost edged the windows of the trailer, and each breath came out visible, soft clouds in the still air. The ocean didn't change much, it still roared, still moved, still reminded me that time never truly stops. It just shifts its pace. Helen brought me thicker blankets. We spent more nights by the fire, bundled up, sipping tea instead of wine. Her dog, a slow-moving mutt named Jasper, had taken to curling at my feet. I didn't mind. One morning, she showed up with an envelope. This came to the library, she said. No return address, but I think it's for you. I took it and opened it slowly. Inside, a single photograph. It was me. Taken from across the street, through the window of the trailer. I was sitting at the table, reading. On the back, scribbled in blocky pen. I see you. Always watching. We're not done. No signature. No doubt. Trevor. Helen insisted we go to the police. They took the photo seriously, filed a report, promised to keep an eye out. But I knew better. Trevor was a ghost when he wanted to be. He'd slipped through cracks bigger than this before. Still, I reinforced the trailer's locks. Installed a camera above the door. And for the first time in months, I kept the lights on at night. Just in case. Days passed. Then weeks. Nothing else came. No notes. No sightings. No news. I should have felt relief. But what I felt was the old familiar tension, the kind that coils inside your chest and waits. I started dreaming again. Not of Elaine. Not of the betrayal. But of the wedding. Only this time, I was the one standing at the altar. Alone. To clear my head, I took longer walks. Down the beach. Through the woods. Into town. On one of those walks, I found myself standing outside the chapel again. The doors were locked this time. So I sat on the steps. Just watched the street. Watched the wind carry old leaves down the sidewalk. And I thought about how much had changed. Not in the world. In me. A few days later, Helen asked a question. Would you ever leave this place? I looked at her. Why? Because sometimes, she said, the best thing you can do isn't to rebuild. It's to move. From what? From the scene of the fire. I didn't answer right away. But I thought about it. A lot. Then, a call came. Marcus. He was excited. You're not going to believe this, he said. Netflix. They want the story. What? They want to adapt it. Limited series. Real actors. Real budget. They saw the documentary. They want rights. I didn't speak. You okay? He asked. Let me think. He gave me a week. That night, Helen and I walked the shoreline. She didn't say much, just let the waves fill the silence. Finally, I asked her. If you had the chance to relive something, but this time with everyone watching, would you? She shook her head. No. Some things lose their truth when the lights come on. I nodded. That settled it. I called Marcus the next day. Told him no. Told him the story had already been lived. It didn't need a remake. He understood. Mostly. I spent that weekend packing. Not to run. Not to disappear. Just to change. 2 bags. A few books. Some clothes. Helen helped me load the car. Jasper hopped into the backseat like he belonged there. He probably did. We left early Sunday morning. Left behind the bench, the trailer, the sea. Left behind the altar and the photo and the ashes of old lives. I didn't leave with bitterness. I left with a note pinned to the front door. For anyone who came looking. It said. This was the end of one story. Start your own. We drove west. Not fast. Not running. Just, steady. The farther we went, the lighter I felt. Like each mile peeled another layer off the past. The trailer was gone. The bench. The chapel. All of it behind us like a photograph left out in the rain, faded, blurred, no longer sharp enough to hurt. Helen didn't ask where we were going. She just rode beside me, one hand resting on the edge of the window, fingers brushing the wind. Jasper snored in the backseat. Life, I realized, had become simpler. And simpler was good. We stopped in small towns. Ate at diners with cracked menus and strong coffee. Slept in motels that smelled of bleach and old wood. It felt honest. No spectacle. No cameras. Just moments. One night, somewhere in Arizona, we pulled off the highway and parked near a canyon overlook. The stars were overwhelming. A million lights stitched across the sky like broken glass frozen mid-fall. Helen asked, "Do you miss her?" I didn't respond right away. Sometimes, I said. But not for the reasons I thought I would. What reasons then? I miss the routine. The familiarity. Not the love. That was already gone long before the affair. She nodded slowly. It's okay to miss what used to be, even if it wasn't real. Yeah, I said. But it's better to build something real now. She leaned her head on my shoulder. And we just watched the stars. In California, we rented a small house near the coast. It had peeling paint, creaky floors, and a view of the water through overgrown hedges. It was perfect. We made it ours. Helen planted herbs outside. I fixed the porch. Jasper took over the living room like a furry king. We didn't call it home. But it was enough. 3 months later, a letter arrived. No name. No return address. But the handwriting was familiar. Elaine. Inside was a newspaper clipping. Headline: A man sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for multi-state fraud scheme. Trevor. Older. Gray. Defeated. And beneath it, a single sentence in her script. I finally stopped pretending. That was it. No apology. No demands. Just truth. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer I never opened again. On the 1-year anniversary of the wedding, if it could be called that, I wrote a note. Not to Elaine. Not to Trevor. To myself. It read: You survived. You rebuilt. And you never looked away. That's enough. I sealed it and buried it in the garden. Not for memory. For release. Later that week, I built a second bench. Like the first, it was simple. Honest. I carved only one thing into it. I forgave the silence. Not the betrayal. Not the lies. But the quiet. The years we both stopped speaking the truth. That was the real crime. And the one I could finally let go of. Helen brought out a bottle of wine that night. We sat by the fire, Jasper curled between us, the sky wide and full again. She raised her glass. To not looking back, she said. I raised mine. To finally seeing forward. We drank in silence. Not because we had nothing to say. But because we didn't need to say it anymore. In the morning, I walked to the edge of the bluff behind the house. The sea was calm. The wind soft. I took a deep breath. And I knew. This was the end of the story. Not because it was over. But because I didn't need to tell it anymore.